I've read about and saw videos about what they called quantum consciousness, which means that our consciousness has some phenomena that that are related to quantum physics. And just to give a brief, simple explanation of what they mean by that, there is a phenomenon in quantum physics called entanglement. It means that if I take two particles that has some link between them and I separate these two particles, let's say two electrons, one has a property called spin up and the other one has spin down, and it doesn't matter what this property is really. So if I separate them in a very, very long distance far away from one another, when I change one particle's property, the other one changes immediately, zero time. And it doesn't matter the distance between them, which means that they are linked in a very long distance, what Einstein used to call spooky action at a distance. And Einstein didn't agree with this phenomenon. But in research today, we proved it, and it's a phenomenon in quantum physics that is proved. So I thought to myself, okay, the brain also has this property of quantum entanglement, which means that we can impact on something because we are made of electrons and protons and neutrons and all these small particles, quantum particles. We can influence on the environment around us. This means that our consciousness or our brain has some quantum phenomena. And there is actually an experiment called double slit experiment that they're saying basically that we can influence small particles. So I just want to explain that and then I will give my idea about that. Let's say we have two slits, okay? Here we have one slit and this is the other slit. And we send a beam of electrons. This is the beam of many, many electrons. One electron, second electron, third one, fourth one, and so on. Many, many electrons, and they go in this direction. When these electrons go through these two slits, if I put a screen here, I will get some distribution like this, which means that if I put a film here, right here, I'll see here electrons, here I'll see electrons. If I try to rotate to my direction, this is the screen. This is the face of the screen. Sorry. And I'll see lines like strips. One strip, two strips, three strips, and so on. And this is the distribution. It goes down and up, like a function called sync. So what they say is, now once someone is looking on the electron, some consciousness is get into the picture, and look how many electrons passed through one of the slits, suddenly all this pattern is collapsed into this pattern. Now instead, instead of seeing this pattern, now we will see only the shadow of these two slits, or the opening of them. the electrons will only go straight, only straight, and this pattern is a wave-like pattern. It means that the electrons have wave properties, so they can be both waves in this case and particles in this wave, in this case, when we get some observer into the picture. And this is their proof that our consciousness is quantum, and this is why they call it quantum consciousness. So I just want to give an idea, my idea. I'm not giving my opinion about that, because there are many theories about why it occurs, but it does occur. But what I want to speak about is another thing, that if I take a bulk material, okay, this is a bulk material. This material has its own properties, and if I move this material, okay, I'm starting to accelerate it. It goes from 0 miles per hour to 0.1 or 0.0000, etc. 1 to 0.000, etc. 2, and in other words, it's continuous. Its velocity is continuous. But on the other end, when we are speaking about very small particles like electrons, let's say, or a gas, if we close gas molecules inside a chamber, each and every particle has its own velocity. But the surprising thing here is that its velocity, it can be, let's say, 1, it can be 2, it can be 3. I'm not giving the units, but let's say it's not continuous, like in this case. It's discrete. It can be, let's say, 50, 55, 60, but not in between. It cannot be 51 or 51.2. It cannot be 53.6. No, it's discrete. It has discrete velocities. And this is very surprising, because this is quantum effect. Okay? Now, if we lose the continuity when we go down, this is a bulk, this is a gas, very small manifestation of this material. So if we go down in size, we start to see more and more quantum phenomenon in the material itself, until you break it down to a very small particle. And in the end, there's a string theory. It's a theory that they say that the most fundamental element that we have in nature is a string-like energy. You have like strings, very small, and it's not anymore a matter. It doesn't have any weight. It's only energy. You only have energy. So, and this is the fundamental material that if I break down the atom, the molecules into atoms, into electron and proton and neutron, and then I divide them into quarks. So let's say this is a molecule, and you break it down to its element. 1, 2, 3. This is atom. And the atom, you can break it down to electron, proton, and some, let's say, neutron. And each one of them is also divided into smaller particles. Okay, the electron can be break down into smaller particles. It's not on scale, right? But smaller particles, and these particles can be divided until you get to these quarks, energy particles, and you just get energy. You don't have any material here in this manifestation. So it's interesting to say that, to compare it to their model of the consciousness and particles, that consciousness is influencing the pattern, and we can influence the experiment results by our consciousness. So maybe if we can say that when we divide particles into the most fundamental particles in nature, and we see energy, so everything is energy. So this is like our consciousness, and we can influence material. So this concept of when the material becomes smaller and smaller, it becomes discrete. Like here, the velocities are discrete, the energy is discrete, the momentum is discrete. I don't want to get too deep into each one of these terms, but everything is becoming discrete, and we become more and more and more discrete until we just have energy. We only have energy. So it's kind of remind that consciousness is not material. It's like an energy or some entity that we cannot explain with words, but it influences the material, and the material itself is made of energy. So it was interesting to think and compare about these two phenomena.